So hello and welcome back to Go Again Gaming, and welcome to the Azalea Cult episode 14 here on the channel. 14 episodes, Jim. It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Climbing up there, dude. Before you know it, we're gonna be at 20.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great time to be an Azalea Cult member or just a fan or player of Azalea, because there's so much stuff going to come out recently in the future for Azalea, and hopefully we're going to be able to see some living legend points at some stage. Maybe even Jian.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be like a logarithmic curve where the amount played and like wins, etc., is just going to skyrocket as soon as Outriders comes out. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that are watching this right now, as you can see, it's mine and Jim's face, but we do have two guests on the stream today, all the way from Malaysia. So you can see them now. I've got Jian over in the right side of the screen. And then Chris from Stormgate Games as well. So welcome to the Azalea Cult. How's it going?
Yeah, that's good. Things good.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having us.
No problem at all. So yeah, I mean, one of the main topics we're going to go into today is this man over here, Jian Wei, as you can see, winning an Armoury with Azalea. We're going to go through some of the lists that you used, because there's a couple of spicy takes in there. So it'd be nice to just get into the mind of how you're playing Azalea over in Asia. You know, it's completely different. So it's going to be interesting to see what that is. And then also Chris as well. Obviously, you run Stormgate Games in Malaysia as well. We'll kick it off with that, actually, because obviously we've had you on Go Again Gaming before. Where we chatted about Malaysian scene in general. So just a bit of history about your shop, really, and how sort of tabletop gaming and TCGs is perceived in that part of the world would be great.
Yeah, sure. So we are a fairly young store. We started basically in March, April of last year.
Yeah.
We're coming up to about a year now. And we've been focusing. So initially, the store was meant to be a Warhammer store.
All right.
I figured that along the way, that's why the logo looks like a bit like Warhammer, right?
Yeah.
So along the way, I got some advice to say, hey, you should look at TCGs, right? And in January of last year, I stumbled upon Flesh and Blood, and then I figured, hey, this could be a good game. And since then, we've pivoted heavily to focus more on Flesh and Blood. So primarily, the game that we do actually is Flesh and Blood. Not so much Magic, not so much Pokemon. It's basically Flesh and Blood all the way. Yeah.
Oh wow, nice.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, I think a lot of stores are the other way around, in a sense where they sort of lean on Warhammer, because Warhammer seems to be the main sort of hobby that makes the most money or what have you. So yeah, that's interesting to see that you've pivoted into Flesh and Blood mainly. So you got quite a good scene down there and running armories quite a lot and stuff then.
Yeah, we get a pretty steady crowd. At peak, we used to have like quite a lot of players, but I think since then more stores carry Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
And LSS supports these stores as well. So because of that, I think we've seen a bit of dilution in terms of the player base.
Yeah.
But having said that, but it makes things tougher now. But having said that, that's why we're moving, and at the same time, we are really committed to Flesh and Blood. We're talking a lot to the distributor. We're also having some conversations with LSS as well. So let's see what we can do for Malaysia. So we're looking forward to some things to happen. So just stay tuned for that. Yep.
Fantastic.
Hey, have you gotten like a skirmish or Road to Nats or any kind of event just yet?
Yeah. So we've got preview for not preview, pre-release for Outsiders.
For Outsiders.
Yeah, we also got a skirmish as well. Yep.
Oh,
so
great.
That's happening in April. Yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
spicy.
Did you guys have a pro tour in Malaysia at all, or did any of the stores have that?
No. So we've just had Road to Nationals was last year, at the end of last year, and then we had recently had a Pro Quest just
Pro Quest,
a month or two,
Pro
a month ago. Yeah, Pro Quest, no Pro Tour. I wish we had Pro Tour, but yeah.
Maybe in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Cool. And you said you're obviously moving to a new store as well. Is that because of growth, or is that because of logistics of where you are? You want to move somewhere else? What's the situation there?
Yeah, a bit of both. Because we're a little bit far out, and along the way we discovered that obviously TCGs are being played a lot more by young adults with a lot more fair time. Because Yeah, so that's why we're moving. It's also going to be closer for me because for me to drive and my business partner to drive to the store takes about half an hour to 45 minutes to drive to the store. So right now, if we do this move, it's going to be less. So it's going to be maybe a 15-20 minute drive to the new store. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, it's not as bad then. Yeah.
Quality of life
Yeah,
will
it's
be a little better there.
Yeah.
Yeah, way better, definitely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool. That's good to hear. Obviously, it's good. It's great to see and great to speak to people all over the world. And appreciate you staying up till half one in the morning for us today.
Yeah.
Being night owls for the cult. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on theme, right? Cult meets at night, late at night.
It's always
Yeah.
nighttime in the pits.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Great perspective.
Yeah,
It's
it's
always.
basically a big cavern, right?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
underground.
Underground,
Yeah.
beneath the city of Metrics, yeah, where all the refuse and stuff goes. But yeah, speaking of the pits, there are a bit of news to come out recently, which obviously touches on Azalea, and we're going to see a lot of this over the next week or so, regards to new stuff coming out. Me and Jim have recently filmed a hilarious teaser video for the spoiler that Going and Gaming are getting for what's it called? For Outsiders. So that's going to be a funny video. So watch out for that as well.
Yeah, I think everybody's gonna love it.
Yeah, it's very, very good. But yeah, so one of the biggest bits of news recently. So let me just switch over the screen here. Is the Armoury kits for what is this skirmish season Armoury kits? Is it?
No, it's just the March Armoury kit.
Just March, just normal ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, as part of that, we've got obviously the Azalea playmat, some posters as well. So obviously we can get our hands on those to decorate your game space or what have you. And then we've got the main thing that is Azalea related or Ranger related is the new bow, which is interesting. So let me just flash up the bow on the screen for everybody now. Alongside this will be Riptide's spoiler as well, Riptide's specialization, for the people that are watching right now. But the new bow is Riptide's signature weapon as well. So this is the weapon that Riptide has got on his back in his art, I'm assuming. It's like this horrible barbed bow which has got blood all over it, and it looks like you could slash someone with this.
And hooks and things, yeah.
Yeah, but right off the bat, what do people think about this? Because obviously this, we'll go into the mechanics in a moment, but if this is Riptide's signature weapon, in his art he also has a big anchor like spearing a bloke through the chest, right? So do we still think we're going to be able to get something like that, or is it mainly just going to be traps? What do we think? Because he's obviously got that big anchor, hasn't he? Or is that anchor going to be a trap? Because he's got a lot of the sort of speculation is that he's going to have two weapons. He's going to have the bow, which is on his back, which is disguised.
Why don't we get a Jian's take first?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, I'm looking at Riptide's art right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like the barbed castaway is mounted on his back.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's holding. Is it some sort of chains on his right hand?
Looks like a harpoon.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like a harpoon. And then he's also got someone like skewered through the chest with like an anchor or something as well.
And he has a whole bunch of heads on his left side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
Trophies.
Yeah. But what I was getting at with this is obviously on the Living Legend. If you go to Flesh and Blood website right now, if you go on the Living Legends bit, it tells you everybody's signature weapon. You know what their weapon is. That if they Living Legend, their weapon goes with them. For Azalea, it's Death Dealer. So if Azalea Living Legends at some point, Death Dealer will not be able to be played anymore in a constructed format. With Riptide, if Riptide Living Legends, Barbed Castaway would not be able to be played anymore, which was surprising to me that his signature weapon is a bow when he's a trap ranger. I thought his signature weapon might have been something else. That's what I was getting at. You know, is there going to be like a majestic offhand or majestic harpoon or anchor that he can use potentially?
Well, yeah, if you're a ranger, you can't really get away from from a bow being your signature weapon, can you?
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So who knows? There might be a different offhand that Riptide can use. Something that's different from the quiver.
Yeah. I think
this
this is likely the token weapon, just like Death Dealer is for Azalea. So I'm wondering if we'll see both Death Dealer again reprinted along with this bow, so that you have each hero's kind of signature weapon or whatever.
True.
And then maybe we have either another bow that's a higher rarity, or like a side weapon, like you're saying, or obviously now we have the quiver slot or whatever, and maybe have more of that, just whatever.
Yeah, because they.
So,
Sorry, carry on.
yeah, well, I think it could be Riptide's ability itself, right? Because I mean, Rangers generally use the bow and the abilities on the bow to load arrows and stuff like that. So if he's going to be a trap ranger, potentially he could have an ability that could allow you to do something, right? So basically, you load something into your arsenal, you shoot it out, and then maybe what he can do is his ability is able to, maybe he can load the older traps into the arsenal for free and stuff like that. And obviously, I think that the new traps will definitely be able to work, right? Because they work from the hand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously we all suspected, but he's pegged as a trap ranger essentially because his specialization card is a trap. So he's got to be on theme with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll probably have some way to manipulate traps that's different than what another ranger would be able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So my theory is Riptide's abilities is going to be something related to traps, and possibly easier for him to use those older traps from Crucible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because LSS did hint that those older traps would see some play as well. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the goal of kind of eroding him. So that'll be cool.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sorry, Andrew, I saw your comment a little late here. He's commenting that he thinks the anchor is likely a trap. That would be pretty cool. And
Yeah.
yeah.
that'd be sick. Yeah.
It's a trap.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Also, one
trap.
all
thing.
the
Oh,
teams are gonna come from traps. Like, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. What was you gonna say, Jam?
Don't forget. Don't
yeah,
forget in March. Yeah, don't forget in March we'll be getting the stores will be getting a whole bunch of the older traps, errata traps. Remember? They'll be sending out
yeah.
kit with that. Yeah.
Nice. What was you gonna say, Jan? Were you gonna say something as well?
Oh yeah. So if you look at Barbed Castaway, there's also this whole thing about aim counters. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I figured that Riptide's gonna make more use of those Dynasty arrows.
Oh yeah, I think that's not gonna be an
the in-counter
Azalea
mechanic.
specific
The in-counter
thing.
mechanic. Yeah.
Agree.
Nice. Yeah. Sweet, and it also touches on the reload mechanic as well, because reload cares about face down cards in your arsenal. So you could also reload a card, from either Riptide's ability or whatever, and then you could turn it face up with the Barbed Castaway to give it an aim counter. So there might be more reloady mechanics as well. Something that the cult has speculated on in the past is maybe a piece of equipment or a hero that says once per turn instant reload. Because then you could do that with Riptide, right? You could reload a card, a trap, the ones that can't be used from hand, into your arsenal and then play it on your opponent's turn as if it were in your hand, essentially, because you're reloading it into your arsenal on your turn. So that's something that could also work with the Barbed Castaway as well, because you reload an arrow using Riptide, flip it face up to give it an aim counter. If it is an aim counter focused attack, then he's going to get more value out of it. So maybe that's why he's on lesser life, because he gets more value out of the things that are hard to play or hard to get.
Yeah, that sounds plausible. Yeah.
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 But yeah, there's loads of theories, loads of speculations, and all those theories could probably be wrong. We will find out soon.
Yeah.
But-
That's right. That's true.
We're like, oh yeah, it could do this, it could do that. No, you're all wrong. You're all idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still
That's why we're
passing
called
to. Yeah, I'm still passing to have a track record of getting things wrong.
Yeah. Brilliant. But yeah, on the while we're on the sort of thread of traps, audience now and the future can see, that alongside Barbed Castaway there is Riptide's specialization, which is the collapsing trap, which was part of LSS's article about traps essentially and what they plan to do with them. So yeah, you should see this on screen now. So legendary Riptide specialization. It's a blue block, 3 defense reaction, and obviously it's a trap that can now be played from hand. So that's what everyone was losing their minds about on Twitter recently. So fair play. But there's also a lot of speculation like, does this mean that the old traps can now be played from hand? No, that is not the case. The old traps that we know from Crucible, as we've just talked about, still have to be played from the arsenal. So maybe there's going to be some interactions with that and how they... Because LSS, you said, Jian said that they should be playable now to a certain degree?
On the article that I mentioned, on the Watch Your Step article, they did mention that even the older traps would they expect the older traps to see some play.
There we are.
After Outsider's release.
Yeah.
So that could be hinting at Riptide's ability to perhaps make better use of those older traps far better than Azalea can.
Yeah, exactly.
LSS does like to be sneaky.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's definitely going to be something that Riptide uses, I suppose, because I don't think traps are in theme with Azalea, right?
No.
So yeah.
Yeah, but
I've tried it. It's just
we've all tried it, Jan. We've all tried it.
We've all tried it. Yeah.
Trap Azalea.
So bad.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I'm curious what you guys think. So the collapsing trap is obviously the specialization Majestic, and it's blue. So I'm wondering if Riptide will go the way of playing more blues, obviously more control-y, etc. What would you guys think about that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a control type hero. It should be right because this trap looks nasty, right? Because you play it out of your hand, you play it out, and then after what happens is that ninjas especially are going to get a real nasty surprise, right?
Yeah.
They just cut the hand -1. Yeah, fine. No more attacks.
Yeah.
Or less attacks. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good as well because if they've set up like a massive sort of Art of War turn, they've got all this sequencing going on, suddenly they're losing all of their cards that they plan to play, plus they're drawing -1. It throws a wrench in those I'm just going to dump my hand on the table strategies, which is nice because it then sort of forces a certain decision where you have to be like, right, if they've got a big trap that can blow out this turn, do I just try and do one big attack instead? Try and sequence it differently. So it just forces more decision points. It's going to be horrible to see how it plays, though.
Yeah.
So
I should mention that a blue defense reaction that blocks for 3 is it is quite powerful. I don't think there's any other defense reactions that blocks for 3 that's also a blue. There isn't.
Yeah, I mean the only one that could essentially block, it's a good little segue actually, cheers for that, Jan, is the old trap. So if the old traps will be flashed up in front of you now as well. And the first one that was gonna speak about, just based on what you said there, was Rock Slide Trap. So this is essentially a blue block 4 unless they pay 1. The rate on it is quite good because if you look at the rates of cards, normally you look at what it pitches for, what it blocks for, minus the actual cost, which is one of the oldest formulas when evaluating a card. So Rock Slide Trap's value is 7 because obviously it pitches for 3 and it blocks for 4 unless they pay 1. So
Rock Slide blocks for 2.
Yeah, it blocks for 2, but if they pay 1, then it blocks for 2. If they don't,
it shows you how much I've used it.
Yeah. So when you're reading it, that's what you're reading it as if it blocks for 4 essentially. Because will they want to pay will they want to pay the 1? Probably not. But
yeah.
Depends on if they're Oldham.
Yeah, exactly.
I pay the 1.
Yeah, I'll pay the 1. Easy. Absolutely. Fabled Hero NZ, thanks for stopping by on the chat. Puts them in a better position in the ice meta as well if leaning into blues. Yeah, exactly. Good
more survivability there in that meta.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, speaking of the old traps, these will apparently be able to be more usable in this set, and we'll see. So Rock Slide Trap is the first one. Next one is Pitfall Trap. We've all loved playing this when we can. It's like a more effective Reckless Swing to a certain degree if you can use it well enough. But obviously we can't play it from hand currently because Reckless Swing costs 2, I think, or costs 1 maybe. But yeah, blocks for 3 and it deals 2 damage to the attacking hero unless they pay 1. So I like that. I do like it, but it's just hard to play, right?
For now.
For now, that's right. And another thing that we spoke about this before, because obviously when Riptide was originally released, we spoke about the traps, obviously, and I devised a theory that obviously because Riptide's got lesser life than everybody else, that he could essentially deal damage where other people couldn't. And I think that the traps will probably do that. If you think about getting your leg stuck in a trap or like a pitfall trap or something, I reckon some of the traps will be able to be not only defensive but also offensive as well, like dealing damage to your opponent. Because at the moment, fatigue or sort of these defensive decks don't really have a way of killing you. They're just blocking everything and not dealing much damage back. So the fact you can control them but also deal damage to them also lends itself to more of a mid-rangey sort of style deck as well, where you could do a bit of both. You could do a bit of attacking with these aim counter arrows, then you can sit back and trap and also deal damage to them, etc. So I think Riptide might sort of go into the mid-range strategy rather than just out and out fatigue. I think that is definitely more of an Oldhim thing, the out and out fatigue. But
Yeah, some of the new Guardian cards in Dynasty do that, right? The one that when you block your shield, and after that you can cause 1 damage to your opponent, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called though, like Shield Bash or something.
Yeah, I play Oldhim, but I don't use that card because the meta doesn't work that way now.
No.
It's kind of how Steel Blade Shunt works as well, right? For Doreen,
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, I could definitely see something like that happening. Hence why he's on lesser life as well, because he can deal damage to people, especially in the draft as well. Because if you're thinking of drafting Riptide, there's no arcane damage, but why is he on lesser life? Why is he on lesser life? Because he can probably.
I wonder if it has something to do with the instant speed stuff, like his bow's an instant speed. So I'm wondering if he'll be able to do a lot of things like on the other turn, like a wizard.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
yeah.
That's another thing as well. Like what we were saying earlier about the reload mechanic on the hero. He could essentially reload a pitfall trap into his arsenal at instant speed and use it, and then they're taking 2 damage unless they pay 1, which could essentially end the game. You know, late on in a draft format at least.
Oh, that sounds nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a slightly more powerful version of Reckless Swing, because to play Reckless Swing you have to discard a card, whereas
that's it.
Yeah, here it's they get 2 damage unless they're able to pay 1.
Yeah, so it blocks for 3 and then it can essentially do 2 damage to them, which, you know, late game, you know, we've all ran into a Reckless Swing before and that's so annoying. And this could be a similar thing. You get down to 2 life against Riptide, you're just like, oh no, is it a pitfall trap? Because I'm just going to die otherwise if it is. So, pretty cool.
I would read Andrew's latest comment, but I'm pretty sure you need to do it with the English accent
Which one's this?
Defense reactions.
Yeah.
Defense reactions are cracked in a physical-only draft sealed environment. Why you to say that?
Cracked. It's just not a... You know, that's a very English word.
Cracked. Yeah, it is. Defense reactions are cracked in a physical-only draft.
I need to bring out the American imitation there.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And then the last of the traps that we have here is Tripwire Trap, which is pretty cool. There, it can essentially stop quite a few things. So obviously, it costs it pitches for 1, blocks for 4. So costs nothing to play as well. So you can compare it to a certain degree to Fateful Scene, Sink Below, so 0, blocks for 4. And it says attack hit effects don't trigger this chain link unless they pay 1. So this can stop some horrible on-hit effects going through if they don't pay the 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The good anti-Azalea card, actually.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Just
Yeah, but it
tripping.
stops all other on-hit effects, right? Like Crippling Crush
Yeah,
and all these cards. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I used to love. That used to be one of my spicy techs against Bravo, because I just hate getting dominated, crippling crushed every game. Like, so one of the things I used to like doing was, although it didn't pay off a lot of the time, was playing take cover, which allows you to reload a card when you play it, when a defense reaction. So you reload the tripwire trap, and then you play the tripwire trap out of your arsenal to stop, like, crippling crush or something. But then again, you would have already stopped the crippling crush at that stage, because you would have blocked 8 and his crush effect wouldn't trigger. So that's awful tech. So just don't throw that out the window.
But tripwire trap could be useful against like you said, the crush effect, but also it would turn off the discard effect from pummel.
Oh, true. True.
Yeah. So if the Guardian doesn't have any resources to spare, if you play tripwire trap, they essentially have to choose between the crush effect or playing pummel.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, they're probably not going to have any resources floating, are they? You know, and if they do, they have to make a decision as to which effect they want. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it stops all the other stuff like Terror Thunder. It stops. I mean, I play old game, right? So it stops stuff like Oaken O.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get all this kind of stuff. It's not gonna feel good when that happens.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah. Guardians usually when they play Terror Thunder or they're planning to pummel, they usually don't have any resources to spare. So it would definitely stop them in their tracks. But yeah, it's a shame that you have to play from Arsenal.
Yeah, and that's I mean, all those traps that we've just spoke about there, you know, potentially becoming playable from the article that LSS dropped is interesting. Because effects like that can be very powerful. You know, you get a very, very high rate card in the rock slide trap if they don't want to pay the 1. You're getting a potentially game-ending out of nowhere pitfall trap if they don't pay the 1. They can just die to your damage, or you're getting something on with the tripwire trap, which is taking so much value away from their on-hit effects. So if we can use those, well, not Azalea, but Riptide especially can use those, then they are going to be quite nice, quite spicy.
Yeah, I think we're just lending more and more evidence that his ability is going to be something with traps somehow to get those traps used more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. Grander Happy is saying take cover is hilarious. You ever block with a 3, take cover from Arsenal, reload another take cover? Yes, I used to have a deck. I used to have a deck based on all. I used to have all the take covers in there. Just because you could get around Dominate with it, right? Because you can only block with 1 card from your hand with Dominate. So if you block with something from hand, you know, and then you reload a card from your hand into your arsenal, you can then block with that as well. So I used to run all the take covers to try and get round the matchup that I hated the most, which was Guardian. But to no avail, unfortunately.
Yeah, but
then
if you do
you're
that, you take away your attacks, right? Yeah, your offensive power goes down dramatically.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're trying to be, Azalea doesn't want to be defensive. I don't think. You know, she's not built for that. Andrew's saying raging.
You're trying to do Guardian stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to be Guardian, but you're not. Yeah, that's right.
You should be playing Guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the more of that you do and put in your deck, you're gonna run into more hands without arrows.
That's right. Yeah, we all know how that feels. So yeah, that's pretty much all the new articles, all the news and stuff that came out. So obviously we covered the traps, potentially how they could be utilised in speculative Riptide abilities. We'll see. But this is not a Riptide cult. Although he's from the pits, you know, he's not the Azalea cult. So we're going to be speaking about Jian, your experiences recently, because obviously you played Azalea in an Armoury recently, and after Well, just give us the
A
just give us
few armories
yeah,
recently.
just give us the history. What's been happening recently? Give us the history of your quest with Azalea.
Right. So I started Flesh and Blood at the beginning of October of 2022. So just over 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just chose Azalea because I really liked her design. Yeah. She gives off this really
Yeah,
dark and gloomy vibe, like almost goth-like.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and she kind of stood out to me because um for one she didn't have any living legend points, so
Yep.
everyone around me was just trying to get me to not play her because they were like, trust me, she's not good.
Yep.
You're gonna have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, boy, they were right.
Yeah. But
But
that's all part of it, right? That's all part of the psychology. People tell you not to do something, you want to do it even more. You know, especially
yeah,
especially as someone who wants to play like the underdog. You know, you want to like do the underdog here and try and do her justice, which is what you've done essentially. After all this time.
I really do like playing underdog heroes because
Yeah.
yeah it because I was under the impression that there might be something there might be something to her that no one has discovered yet, because
Yeah.
it's sort of like a vicious cycle because
Mm.
they see Azalea and she has no living legend points, so no one plays her.
Mm-hmm.
But because no one plays her, she doesn't have any living legend points.
Very true.
Yeah, so I was hoping to at least prove some people wrong
Yeah.
with that.
Mm.
So I just set a goal to try win an armory with Azalea.
Small steps.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, winning an armory with extra steps.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So yeah, I just kept reiterating my deck build. Like I remember starting off with that Polish guy. What was his name?
Oh, Pavel Leszek.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pavel. Yeah, so I started off with his deck because that's what you do when you start off. You just build a deck from an established list.
Yeah.
So I started off with his deck, and after every armory, I would change something about it. So yeah, those changes were more drastic when I first started, but now they're just very minute changes.
Mm.
So I never finish an armory and not change something later on. So it's my deck's sort of like a living, breathing thing. It's like it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So I used to change like a whole play sets of cards, whole bunch of cards, but nowadays I just change one or two cards after every armory.
Nice.
Yeah, I sort of like reflect on what went wrong, what was difficult, and yeah, it's just it's a continuing process. So I didn't see my first I didn't see my first win until my 12th armory, I think.
Wow.
So I went
Wow.
10, 11 armories without a single win. That's about
That's some determination. That's really
Yeah.
admirable.
that's about 30 matches. So yeah, so armories over here just have 3 rounds, and maybe a top 2 or top 4 playoff.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you have
So-
like 10-ish in your armories on average?
Yeah, so after 10 armories, that's 30 matches that that I've lost. But yeah, I think after the 11th of 12th armory, I started winning at least one match every armory.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 in 3. But nowadays, I think it was after my 30th armory or my 40th armory that I begun to win 2 matches half the time and maybe 1 match half the time. So like two out of three, one of half the time, and 1 out of 3 the other half the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting better. I think.
I think it's I think Azalea is one of those heroes. Like if you compare Flesh and Blood to a game like Dark Souls, for instance, right? Dark Souls is the hardest video game out there, but the more you play it, the more you understand it. So I think you have to die over and over and over and over again to understand to understand the deck almost and understand the hero to be able to start getting these wins and start sort of making progress.
Get the mechanics down, etc.
Yeah, exactly, and just know all the lines of play when you draw the cards. You know exactly what this card can convert to if you're putting it into Death Dealer and drawing and all this sort of thing. So it's quite an intricate process. But
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I just recently finished playing Elden Ring.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So I really do enjoy the challenge of like a seemingly underpowered hero.
Yeah.
So what class did you play in Elden Ring then?
Oh, I play well, I don't exactly remember what class, but I remember the weapons I used. So I went for like a melee build, dual daggers. So
nice.
That's
yeah.
It's kind of difficult because you have to do any damage, you have to get like way up
Really
close.
Yeah,
way up close with the boss. But yeah, as I mentioned, I do enjoy like the thrill of like a really hard challenge. So
well, that's the allure, isn't it? That's the whole draw to it. It's not like you're going to an armory or whatever, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'll choose whatever the strongest deck is. I'm just going to net deck the meta deck. A lot of people do that, but there is a sort of natural sort of thing where you want to be playing the hero that you gravitate towards the most. And if you're someone that enjoys the challenge and enjoys the underdog sort of psychology, then Azalea is definitely the one to choose. So yeah, fair play for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, right? In Flesh and Blood, it's still a paper rock scissors thing, right? Doesn't matter what hero you play, what class you play. You always face someone that you have trouble against. So I think the game is fair in that sense.
Yeah.
You don't have like one hero that says they can take down everyone. And let's forget Star Wars, right? But other than that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah. So with all that sort of grinding and everything, obviously you got your win at an Armoury event recently, and that was your 50th one, right? Is that right? 50th?
It was between 45 and 50 Armoury.
Nice.
So yeah, I did play at ProQuest. I did play at one ProQuest last month. Yeah, I finished with 3 wins and 4 losses. Like,
yeah,
it was better than I expected, but I finished somewhere in the middle of the table.
Yeah, that's fair enough. These things happen. Yeah, I played in the battle. I battle hardened in Leeds and went 3-5. But the meta was wide open. Like every match was different. It was crazy. It was good to see. But now it's just all ice, all frost. Winter has come.
Winter has come.
Winter has come. But yeah, I think while we're on the subject of obviously your Azalea, we can obviously go through your list a little bit because obviously it's there's a few spicy cards in there as well, which we haven't seen for a while, and there's a few cards that people have wanted to play and haven't really used them and all that sort of thing. So it's interesting to see what your take is on some of those cards as well. So just while we get the screen up.
I should mention that a few of these cards have changed. Like since I take some out and replace them with every Armoury. So I sort of reflect on every single card that's in my deck like pretty much every day. So it's just constantly changing.
Yeah, well, that's good though, isn't it? It's like you say, like you said earlier, you're always sort of trying to build upon what you've experienced and all that sort of stuff. So it's good to see that you're doing that actively, because that's how we're going to get living legend points for Azalea is to just keep trying all these different things, right? So
Yeah, it's just one big game of trial and error.
exactly, it really is. So those that have got the screen in front of them here now or in the future, you'll see this is Jian's list as it stands at the moment. And as you said, there's a few changes which we'll get to. But first of all, hero equipment and weapons is pretty much the standard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did choose to go without Snapdragon scalers just to get that extra slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I often use my boots to block anyway.
True.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that two block is it really comes in handy. It allows you to like defend with probably one card from hand and one from arsenal, and maybe cancel a crippling crush from Bravo, or I often use it. I often use it to stop a snatch from Phi. So like just one card from hand and purge grapplers, and that usually that usually does the job.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just something that I think a lot of us. I mean, Levi Rausch, who was on the channel recently, is obviously one of the best Azalea players in the world. Obviously, he's got Snapdragons in the list, but I think like a lot of us will use perch grapplers a lot of the time just to get that block, as you said. It's just a bit sad, isn't it, that we've got a cool piece of legs, but we don't never use the ability really. Well, Paval used it, didn't he, to sort of combo off to a certain degree to get the combo win with the
I think Levi mentioned he used it once, maybe.
Yeah.
I never have.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah,
but...
I have used it a few times. It's
okay.
kind of it's sort of situational.
Mhm.
Like if I feel that I can present a lot of damage that turn, I would pay the 2 to give. Usually endless arrow, go again.
Yeah.
And then it would just keep coming back, and it just allows you to present a whole heap of damage. You could probably fire endless arrow 3 times if it starts in your arsenal.
Yeah, so that's another card that literally I've cut from a lot of my CC lists is Endless Arrow. I've cut it a lot, and Levi's cut it a lot as well. So it's interesting to see Endless Arrow coming in the list here. But we'll go down a little bit. So we're scrolling down a little bit here. So we're looking at the deck now, just because I'm trying to explain it to both the audience and you guys in the chat here. So the deck starts off with bolt and shots, 3 reds and 2 yellows. So not running the full suite of yellows there. But is that just to make room for something else then? Just try and cut down to 2 ovs where you can and just crank something else in there instead?
Yeah, I've since switched to 3 reds and 3 yellows, but
Nice.
No blues. So it's just
No blues.
yeah. So if you look at the sideboard, there are 2 bolt and shot blues down there. But I've realized that I don't get that much value from blue bolt and shot, just reds and yellows.
Yeah.
So yeah, I now run 3 reds and 3 yellows because the reds allow me to connect to some other attack. It could be an E strike, CNC, or maybe just another arrow, because bolt and shot I would say is probably my favorite arrow, like both reds and yellows together, because they're just so versatile. They very easily get go again, and it just threatens it threatens a reload, because one, the opponent doesn't know what you have in your hand.
No, exactly.
So oftentimes they would full block a bolt and shot, but what they don't know is sometimes the reload doesn't matter to me. Like
Exactly.
There's this one really good turn I had today. I played Ravenous Rabble.
Yeah.
and I pitched a yellow card to load a red bolt and shot. I drew I think it was Seek and Destroy or Release Attention. It was a buff tree card.
Yep.
So I played that, fired the bolt and shot for 7 go again. If it I get to reload.
Yep.
But what my opponent didn't know was the final card in my hand was CNC.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so they full blocked the bolt and shot, and I used my tunic resource and the remaining 1 resource from that yellow to just play CNC, and that was just that was evil.
Yeah,
It's going to go out no matter what.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's what a lot of people will do. Is that's the good thing about bolt and shot is, you know, a lot of them will try and block the reload because they think another arrow is coming in. So if you've already activated Death Dealer like you've done on that sort of thing, the opponent sees your board state and's like, okay, right. The only other way they can get an arrow into their arsenal now is by cracking the bullseye bracers, for instance. That's the only other way they can do it. So if I block this out, then that essentially ends their turn. No, it doesn't, because I've got a CNC. So yeah, it can be really powerful because it forces the block when the block sometimes doesn't. When the reload sometimes doesn't matter. Exactly how you've said there. So yeah, very, very good. And as you can see here as well, good segue to the generic attacks in the list. We've got CNC 2 of, E-Strike 3 of, Ravenous Rabble 3 of, which, you know, a lot of those will be in a lot of the Azalea lists at the moment. Those 3.
Yeah, I do often run 3 CNCs. So if you look at the sideboard, there's 1 more down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there is, yeah.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I take out 1 CNC because, it kind of depends. If I sideboard out too many of my blues or yellows, I wouldn't have. The deck becomes too resource hungry to play 3 CNCs.
Right.
So sometimes I would take out just 1 CNC, but I almost always run at least 2.
Nice. Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give this a go on my Talishar streams, mate. Gonna have to give this a go. And then we got Endless Arrows. So we got so there's 2 in the main board, 1 in the sideboard. So there's 3 of those in there as well. Which is something I used to love personally. I don't know about everybody else, but yeah, it's just one of those things that again forces a block, allows you to then put it back into your hand and then potentially arsenal it as well. So you're essentially still maintaining the card advantage if they allow it to hit, which is what I like. So it's nice to see those in there as well. Any sort of, well, you use them to go wide as well, you said, with the boots sometimes?
Yeah, well, not sometimes, probably.
Most of the time.
No. It's kind of hard to pay the 2 for Persia Grapplers in order to give Endless Arrow go again. Actually, most of the time, I just use Razor Reflex to give it go again.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I run. That's one of the main reasons I run Razor Reflex. I often use it to give Endless Arrow go again. You know, so it comes back to me, and I use either Bullseye Bracers or Death Dealer to reload it and and fire it a second time.
True. Yeah.
It's kind of rare to. It's kind of rare for me to use Razor Reflex to give any other attack go again because it's just kind of hard to find like the second arrow like in your hand to reload, whereas if it's Endless Arrow it comes back to you.
That's a good idea actually. So the Razor package that you have here, so obviously 2 in the main board, 1 on the side, is mainly used to force the on hit of Endless Arrow. Then that's what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, and I sometimes I do sometimes use it to just force the on hit of maybe Red Ledger or or Sleep Dart or Fatigue Shot. It's most of the players, most of my opponents, at least here in Malaysia, they sort of lean towards the aggro or mid range.
Yep.
So there isn't like a strict meta here in Malaysia. It's quite there's quite a variety. But if I had to choose, it does lean towards aggro and
Nice.
mid-range. There's way too many fives running around. And so what I've discovered is the thing about aggro and mid-range decks, they often don't want to overblock.
Yeah.
So it does it does make sense to at least for me to load more cards that pumps damage in the back end instead of the front.
Yeah.
Because they
smart.
most of the time they don't see it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no one expects a attack reaction from a ranger, unless you're Lexi, right? With your lightning press, lightning surge, is it?
Yeah.
Which one? Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah, lightning press or something else. Yeah.
Press,
No,
yeah.
that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's good analogy of it as well. Is obviously because a lot of these cards, like underneath this on the list, we've got read the glide path, release attention, seek and destroy. All these buffs up front that will that can obviously do some great things. Obviously, read the glide path, you opt. Release attention, evades. Seek and destroy, destroys arsenals and hands. But yeah, the fact that you're using also razors in there as well is interesting to get the on hit on the back end. Because people don't expect it. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, just the other day, I won a match against a Briar because of Razor Reflex.
Oh.
He just didn't see it coming, so it was down to the wire, and he had
That's quality. Yeah.
So he had like 2 or 3 life left, and he blocked exactly 4 to my endless arrow, and
Yeah.
I just popped out the Razor Reflex, and he had no reactions.
Oh, nice. Fantastic.
I feel like that hurt him. Didn't feel too good after that.
Watch out for
Yeah.
that Razor Azalea, I tell you.
Mm.
Awesome.
So, so it's a very it's a much more aggressive build. So yeah, that's why I run Poison Tips and Razor Reflex. So these are cards that sort of punish people for not blocking.
Yeah.
So if you're in a aggro heavy meta, those tend to be quite useful.
Yeah, so I can see you've got 2 poison tips in there as well.
Yep.
So one in the main board, one in the sideboard. Again, it's a card that a lot of people think, you need to be going wide with this to get the full effect, because obviously it's until end of turn, all arrows you control gain, if it hits, discard a card. But as you said, potentially, in metas that don't want to block, this could essentially strip their hand at the same time. So it can make their turn even less impactful. Because if obviously the main way that aggro decks get their value is if they don't block at all, because they can just chain together a load of attacks. So if you're taking one card away and punishing them for not blocking, it might sort of take a lot of value out of their next turn, right? Is that why you're using that?
Yeah, it's basically a free pummel.
True.
If it hits.
Yeah.
But I often find ways to attack at least twice when I play Poison Tips.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is play Poison Tips and a buffed bolt and shot, and then I get to go again and fire a second arrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. I can see that going off. Cool. So you've got poison tips. Obviously, you got rain razors. So you got 2 of those in there, rather than the full 3. Is that right? At the moment.
Yeah, but I've since changed to run 3 rain razors and 3 razor reflexes.
Sweet. Cool. So as you said,
yeah,
always
so pretty much.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one of those cards in there. It can do so much, but it can also lose you the game if you draw it on a turn you need to block. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I do run 3 rain razors, but most matchups I take out 1 because I just don't want that many instants in my deck. It could come back and bite me in the ass.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Enough arrows again.
yeah. I never thought about doing that actually. So you could still run 3 rain razors, but you can still take 1 out or 2 out, depending on what you want to achieve.
Just to adjust your ratio, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I never think about doing that.
Yeah, so some matchups where I feel that I don't need to block as much.
Yeah,
Like against Icelander. It is possible to raise to zero with Icelander.
yeah. And Rain
So
Razors
if I
can still block, can't they? They can block arcane damage at least. They can block a Waning Moon or something like that because they still pitch to Arcane Barrier. So I guess they still. You could run all three in that matchup, surely. Do you think?
mm,
Or not?
yeah, Rain Razors is useful in an Icelander matchup because it's yellow, so I can use it to pitch
Yeah,
for
exactly.
2 AB with just one card.
Yeah.
I do try to take out as many useless reds as I can because you don't want to you don't want to be stuck with a handful of reds against an Icelander.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. And just finishing off the main list here before we go on to some of the sideboard stuff we haven't actually mentioned yet. I have a Fidia in here. You got one of those, have you?
Yeah, I'm really curious about
yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I bought one from the US and
Oh, wow.
have it shipped here.
Nice.
Yeah, it does come in handy. It has saved my life a few times.
Oh.
Because the thing with Eye of Fidia is, it exists for you to pitch it, so it means it goes to the bottom of your deck. So, you do have cards that shuffle your deck, like Knock Death Whistle. So you could potentially see it 2 or 3 times in a game. But if you don't end up shuffling your deck, you end up drawing it towards the end of the game where you really need that dominate to finish off the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I like to do is pitch Eye of Fidia for Death Dealer. I opt to, and hopefully one of those ops is an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to place the arrow as the second card because I'm gonna draw the first card, and then I use Azalea to dominate that arrow.
Oh, nice. Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So the best thing is when I pitch Eye of Fidia and opt to, the best thing is to have like maybe Seek and Destroy or Release Attention, and then one arrow. So that's pretty easy. I just put that as the top. So I draw the buffing card, and then I buff and use Azalea. So yeah, just like that.
Yeah, I played against
That's
January a
interesting.
couple of times. Yeah, I played against January a couple of times, and the way I see him play is that he uses Eye of Fidia and a bunch of, and of course, as well as the ability, right, to do all the opting, and that allows him to like figure out his next move, and he has options. So that's where I think that's the power of Azalea actually, the fact that she can actually create options out of her hand, and also I'll see what's on top of the deck, and be able to then decide what's the best thing. Because I always observe January as he plays, right? He's always like opting, and then he's looking at like 4 cards in his hand, 1 card is looking from the deck, and I'm like, what's he doing, man? He's like, 5 cards there, what's going on?
Yeah. That's one of the things that
Yeah.
that's one of the things as well that Levi said as well about, you know, accessing cards that you wouldn't actually be able to access with any other hero. You can go that you know, those couple of cards deeper with Azalea because you can access it via drawing it from Death Dealer or getting it into the arsenal with Azalea, you know. So using those effects, you know, like Eye of Fidia is definitely a good shout. But I've never used it because I don't own one.
But
Yeah, so
yeah.
essentially, yeah, sorry. So I was just saying this. So essentially, what Azalea does is that she's sort of digging into
Yeah.
the deck,
Yeah.
pull stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just seeing as many cards as you can. So yeah, that's good choice. And obviously not a Death Whistle as well. Obviously, it's a staple. Blue block 3 and shooter for any card you want and potentially dominate it is just a staple in Azalea, isn't it? To be honest. So
Yeah, it's what I often do with Knock Death Whistle is I try to use Death Dealer first and then play Knock. Otherwise, you're giving up a card if you're playing Knock on an empty arsenal.
oh shit, yeah, completely forgot about that. Yeah, 'cause you draw the card, it replaces itself, and then you go and get the thing. Yeah, all right, that's pretty good.
So I try not to use the reload mechanic that often because I because I try to get that value from Death Dealer. So you place an arrow and you replace it immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I play knock. So if the only times I play knock Death Whistle with an empty arsenal is like I have no choice. Like
Yeah.
Maybe the previous turn I had to use 2 cards to block, and that leaves me with an empty arsenal and knock and 1 card. So yeah, so the standard move would be to just play knock, reload that card, and dominate either a 4 or 5 arrow if you have that resource on Tunic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, that's all part of the hero. It's like, you can do lots of different lines with it based on the cards that you have, which is why, obviously, we enjoy playing it, because there's so many things you can do. But I didn't think of that. I didn't think of using Death Dealer to put the arrow in there that you want to, activate Azalea with after you've played the knock, because obviously you draw a card afterwards, so you're not losing a card then, are you? As you said, as long as you can...
Yeah.
As long as you can put an arrow that you don't want into your arsenal with Death Dealer and draw a card, you're essentially getting rid of that downside of having to reload something and losing a card entirely. So I've never actually thought about it that way, which is interesting.
Yeah, because all reloads are optional. Yeah, if you look at the card text, if you have no cards, you may put a card from your hand. So so it's at least for my strategy is it's best to only use reload as a last resort.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. Cool. And then obviously some of the sideboard cards that we haven't mentioned yet. So drill shot. You got 2 of those in there.
Yep. I still run 2. I found that you don't really need 3 drill shots.
No.
Yeah, it's because by mid to late game, drill shots essentially become useless because
Just a 0 for 4. Yeah.
yeah, just a 0 for 4 because many of my opponents end up using their equipment to block, and they don't have any more defense to strip away. So I just try to run 2 because by late game it's just dead weight in your hand.
Yeah, I found that as well. Like, early game, you if you fire the drill shots off, maybe sort of late game, they decide to block with their equipment that you're gonna debuff anyway. They chuck their blade breaks in, they chuck their other stuff in to essentially just get rid of the to use their armor straight away. But having that late game, as you said, is just not good because you've got nothing to use against, nothing to put the -1 counter on. So can appreciate that you've cut it to 2 to then make room for another 1 of somewhere else, which could be a good take on things for sure.
I do sometimes take out 1 drill shot and just play 1 or maybe even none. So I play no drill shots against Lexi because pretty much all the equipments are blade break. So
Yeah.
You don't really take that much defense away from heroes that use mainly blade break, because if you drill shot a hero that's using all blade break equipment, and if it hits, you're just taking away 1 defense, whereas heroes that run temper and battle worn equipment, if it hits, you're taking away 2 defense. Yeah, so sometimes I do take out the drill shots if I deem it I don't expect to get that much value from drill shot against Lexi and maybe Icelander, because they don't have that much defense on their equipment.
It's just a coronet peak, isn't it? That's it. That's blade break 2, isn't it? That one.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't really want to dedicate a turn just to take away
No.
1 defense from Coronet Peak.
Yeah.
So I sometimes do take out Real Shot if I think it's I don't expect to get that much value from it that game.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Then we got 3 Fateful Scenes. Obviously, just another defensive option to use. Is there any reason why it's in the sideboard? Did you put it in there against anything else? Anything in particular? You sub it in?
No, I just put in the sideboard because there is one matchup where I just don't run any D-Rex. I take out all my D-Rex against Icelander.
True. Yeah.
All gas,
Yeah.
no brake.
Yeah, because you're not gonna get that much value out of the 4 block with Icelander, especially since their Wounded Bull and Feyndel's Fighting Spirit don't have any devastating on hits. So yeah, I rather just take out as many reds as I can.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I've played against a few Icelanders on like Talishar or what have you, and I've always still had in, Sink Below and Fateful Scene. I've always had those still as part of the list. But yeah, I guess you're right. The only sort of physical attacks they're throwing are just raw damage. So I guess it doesn't really matter. And obviously you can make use of the yellows and the blues more because you're going to be getting frostbites and all that sort of good stuff. I say good stuff, horrible stuff, but there you are.
Nasty stuff.
Nasty frost. That makes sense. Yeah, so I have to try that as well. That's a good thing about getting different people on from all over the world. Is that obviously did have different mindsets and different perspectives on how these heroes can work, which is nice.
It is possible to race to 0 with Icelander because I found that if you present enough damage every turn, there's only so much they can stop. Like they could throw as much arcane damage as they can on your turn, but eventually they're gonna have to take that really tall arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it consistently enough, and if they are unable to set up the board or present enough arcane damage, you can essentially just race to 0 with Icelander. It is possible. I've won matchups with Icelander without any D-Reacts.
Yes, I guess your damage is going to be more, isn't it? Your damage output is going to be more because they're playing things like just five arcane, Aether, Ice Vein here and there sort of thing. So I guess you would win that race if that was the case.
I against Icelanders, I try to load as many. I try to keep as many blues as I can because, one blue could I could just use 1 blue to block 1 arcane and pay the 2 from Aether Ice Vein.
Yeah, exactly. Nice, makes sense. And then we got three fatigue shots in here. So these are what mainly used for guardians and brutes and stuff. These fatigue shots take some value away from their attacks.
I mainly have them in for brutes and guardians. They do come in handy. I only keep them. I only keep them in the deck if I expect to save 3 or 4 life from getting fatigue shot hit.
Yeah.
So that's usually brutes and guardians.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You're taking a lot of value away from them.
Yeah, there was this one turn I had with Bravo today, where I got fatigue shot to hit, and the next turn he just crippling crush. He just used crippling crush, and it just came for 6 damage. It was
that's beautiful.
yeah, that's just that's beautiful. So all it took was 1 card from hand to prevent the crush effect.
That's great.
So I just block 1 from hand, take 3 damage, and just present even more damage the next turn.
Yeah, nice work. Lovely. And then obviously we've got Remorseless here, which is in the sideboard. Any reason why it's not in the main list? Because personally, I found that the evasion that's built onto it could be quite good as also a finisher. Like, 'cause you can't play D-React from Arsenal, but again, that's also quite narrow to a certain degree. So, is there any reason why it's in the sideboard as to oppose the main?
So there are matchups where I take out Remorseless. If I expect that I'm not gonna get that much damage, that much extra damage from it if I get it to hit.
Yeah.
So Guardians, especially, they're only gonna take 1 or 2 damage from Remorseless on their turn.
Mhm.
Maybe Brutes. Well, there are instances where Brutes could take 3 or 4 damage from Remorseless, but it's far too rare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're less
for
often
yeah,
wide
yeah,
turn.
yeah,
Yeah.
like their white turns are often comprised of Bloodrush Bellow, followed
Yeah,
by
Bellow.
two
Yep.
two swings of Mandible Claw, which obviously doesn't take any life away from them because of Remorseless, because it has to be an attack action card.
Mhm.
So most turns, Brutes, on average, Brutes would probably just take 2 damage from Remorseless if I get it to hit. So I just don't think it's is that valuable in a Brute matchup and in the Guardian matchup.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
yeah, I try to take out anything that is just isn't threatening enough to them.
Yeah. Definitely. Nice. Then obviously you got Sink Below. Obviously we spoke about defense reactions. Obviously you got Sink Below in here as well. So 3 of those, 3 Fateful Scenes, and 2 red Take Covers are the D reacts that you have in the whole deck. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 8 D reacts in total,
Yeah.
which I found to be the optimal amount to run against Guardians. I do take out 2 to 4 D reacts depending on the matchup. So I could run as few as no D reacts against, for example, against Icelander, or
Yeah.
like 2 or 4 D reacts against other aggro mid-range matchups.
Yeah.
Awesome. Then we got Deadeye. So we got 2 of these in here. So what's your perspective on Deadeye? Because a lot of people just see it as, yeah, it can buff an arrow attack, which is good in some situations, and it's a yellow pitch that can leave me with 1 floating for Death Dealer, and it blocks for 3, so it's an auto include. I'm going to have 3 of those in the list, but obviously you've only got 2 here. So what's your perspective on Deadeye at the moment?
Yeah, actually, I've now included an extra one. So
3 in there now.
Yeah. So now I run 3 Deadeyes, and
Nice.
I've stopped running Take Aim.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, because again, for one, I don't use the reload mechanic often enough for it to be useful to me. So Take Aim essentially becomes the same as Nimblism, which is a 0 for 3 that blocks 2. So yeah, I just didn't see that much value in keeping Take Aim. So I took both of them out, added 1 Deadeye, and I also run 2 This Rounds on Me now.
Oh, okay. Nice. So yeah, the list in front of me doesn't say that, but now you've put in 2 rounds on me. So is that for what's that for then? Like Phi and Dromai and dragons and stuff?
Yeah, This Rounds on Me could be useful in one, either like deactivating Dromai's A to Ash Wings, and also canceling out Phi's Art of War.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does come in handy. Plus, it's a block 3 and it's a blue that half the time I pitch it, but there are times where I do get value from drawing that extra card, even if it means they draw the extra card too.
Yeah.
For example, I could if I know I can get Rin Allergic to hit, then it doesn't matter that they also draw a card, because I'm gonna get Rin Allergic to hit, and I could go even taller if I just draw that extra card.
Yeah. Nice. So you got 2 of those in there now. This round's on me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good blue that's a 3 block. So I kind of struggle to find useful blues to run in my deck, and I just settled on This Rounds on Me.
Yeah. Nice. It also filters a card, doesn't it? So if you play it, it costs 1. So you essentially get the card out of your hand that you don't want to use, and then you draw the one that's coming instead, and hopefully it's better for the scenario that you're in. So it's like a bit of filtering as well, which works with Azalea sort of style stuff.
Yeah, it's especially good if you get to use a tunic resource for it. So you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to give up a card. In order to draw a card. It also plays well with Iophidia, so like I could pitch Iophidia for this rounds on me, and I get to opt before I draw.
Yeah. That
extra card. So that it works. Yeah, it works really well. Like Iophidia works with many it works well with mechanics in the game that requires you to draw a card and requires you to pitch a resource, because obviously you can't pitch for nothing.
No.
So you would have to pitch Iophidia for Death Dealer for this rounds on me, and it allows you to basically see what you're gonna draw, which is always useful.
Yeah.
As for Deadeye, like I said, it's I run 3 now because I want to get as many 3 blocks in my deck as possible. So it's a yellow that's also 3 block, and it can be used to buff your arrow if needed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tremendous amount of value from just a single card. I often in the early game I often pitch it away because yellows are very useful in that sense. Like yellows pay for both Death Dealer and the cost 1 arrow that you're about to fire.
Mm-hmm.
So in the early game I often pitch Deadeye, and I once you get down to the bottom half of your deck where all your pitch cards are, you're gonna run into many blues and yellows, so you would have no problem paying for Deadeye if you need to use it to buff your cards later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good for pitching in the early game, and when you do run into it, your hand will usually be full of resources that you wouldn't have any problem paying for that.
A good way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah, for that +3.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sweet. So yeah, there's a couple of yellows there. We've just covered. Obviously, poison the tips. We spoke about that earlier, which is at the bottom of the list here on the sideboard. There's 1 there, and then 1 in the main deck. Not sure whether the composition's changed at all, but obviously this is what we're looking at the moment. Then we got Feign Death as well. So when do you use this?
Well, yeah, I've since taken out Feign Death, but
okay.
When I was using it, I was sort of just experimenting with it.
Yeah.
Because Feign Death, unfortunately, it costs 1, so it's kind of hard to time. Like you gotta have that 1 tunic resource, otherwise you're giving up a card. But when it does work, it's just fantastic. It just prevents all the damage.
That's right.
That you're about to take. So it could be arcane damage. It could if timed right, it could potentially cancel out like an Icelander's finishing move with Stormstriders.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah.
It could also cancel out like Kano's blazing Aether, which is always a tremendous amount of arcane damage. So having a card that just blocks everything as long as you've taken damage that turn, it's very useful, but like I said, it's very hard to time.
Quite niche as well. Yeah,
it is quite niche. It was quite useful against Dorinthia, because on many turns Dorinthia would like to swing twice if possible. So what I tried to do is take that first hit and just use Feign Death on the second swing to prevent them from building their Dawnblade counter.
Yeah, that's good utilization of
Yeah.
it. I've had a good story
Yeah.
recently when used against Dash. So had a lot of boost coming in at me. So a lot of zero cost, 0 to 60s and all this sort of stuff coming in. And then they used a maximum velocity to try and finish off the turn. And I was just like, no, I've taken damage already. I'm going to Feign Death everything. So I prevent 10. Thanks. Just blew them straight out the water. So
it's useful in aggro matchups where their damage signature, as I like to call it, it starts off small and ends off with a bang.
Yeah.
So like Dash's maximum velocity and Fi's Salt the Wound, which usually comes for maybe 7, maybe 8 if Tiger Stripe Shuko is still active.
Yeah.
So but then again, it's very hard to tell when Fi is gonna break their pouncing links and call Salt the Wound. So what I try to do is as soon as I get Feign Death, I would try to arsenal it. Hopefully I would have that one resource on the tunic. And I would try to sort of bait the Fi to break their pouncing links. So I would take all the hits and sort of tempt them to to use their pouncing links, and at which point I would use Feign Death and essentially cancel out their Salt the Wound and basically just render their turn where they would have otherwise dealt 20 to 25 damage to like sub 20.
Yeah. It's one of those cards that has like a very, very low floor but a very high ceiling, as a lot of TCGs aficionados say, low floor, high ceiling. This one has a very high ceiling but a very low floor as well. So it can either be very rubbish or very good, essentially, depending on what situation you're in. And again, that situation is very niche as well. So I can appreciate why you've cut it. A lot of people want to use it and want to try and get some amazing counter spell-esque type effects from it, where you just say no to what they're trying to do. But it doesn't block in any other situation. It's very conditional as to when you can use it. So I can appreciate why you've cut it.
But it's just way too situational.
When it works, it's awesome, and when it doesn't work, it just hurts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we got is Memorial Grounds still in the list, or have we to cut that as well?
So I still run 2 Memorial Grounds. I used to run 3 of them a long time ago because I wanted as many cards as possible that would allow me to call back Renner Ledger.
Yeah.
But I found that 2's just the right amount, because you just don't want that. You don't want too many instants in your deck.
That's right.
But Memorial Grounds is sometimes useful for pitching in the early game where dominating isn't the main goal, because dominate becomes more and more deadly as the game stretches on. So I sometimes use Memorial Ground as just a plain yellow pitch, which I will meet later on when dominating is far more threatening to the opponent.
That's right. Yeah.
Also, sometimes you want your graveyard to be built up more, so using it later in the game when you got more to choose from.
Yeah, the worst thing to draw on turn 0 is a Memorial Ground, because you have nothing. Yeah, you have nothing to call back. So I would just use it as a yellow pitch.
Yeah, nice.
And then if you don't want Remembrance set, Remembrance allows you to bring back 3 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to shuffle your deck with Remembrance.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to mess up your pitch stack, right? Right. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, sometimes it can matter. I mean, Knock the Death Whistle as well shuffles the deck as well, so it just depends what what you're trying to do, I guess, what effect you're trying to get. But yeah, and then we got some couple of blues in there as well. So two blue Bolton shots. Is that still the case, or have you added one to that as well?
Oh no, I've taken out the blue Bolton shots.
Oh, you did say, didn't you? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. Blue head shots. You're still using those? 3 of those.
I've taken out one, so I just run 2 headshots now. Two blue headshots, 3 red ones.
3 red ones. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've limited the blues in my deck to I think it was 8 blues. Yeah, 8 blues.
Nice.
I think that's still above our average anyway. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have enough blues in this deck. I found that 8 or 9 blues is a good amount. So blues are especially useful in this deck because it can potentially pay for Death Dealer, a cost 1 arrow, and potentially Razor Reflex, all with 1 card. Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, it's good to see the list and see your opinions and thoughts on certain things. Because yeah, everyone's different. Everyone plays a deck differently, and everyone thinks about it differently. So you definitely gave a lot of us, myself included, some lines to think about when we're playing Azalea. So cheers for that. So that's good to hear. But that pretty much rounds it off for today. So thank you very much for joining us, and I appreciate you staying up till it's 7 o'clock for us. What time is it for you?
It's 3 a.m.
Wow, look at that.
Absolute
commitment to the cult. Absolutely love it. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on. Any sort of last thoughts or feelings as to what you might want to get from outsiders? Do you think? What do we want to see for Azalea, or in general?
Yes. Someone did ask me what would be the number one thing I would like to see from outsiders is as unlikely as it is, I would like to see Azalea get a 3rd specialization.
Yep.
Because it's not totally out of the question because both Dorinthia and Viserai has 3 specializations.
That's right.
So maybe something along the lines of like a legendary specialization where you can only have 1, but it's powerful enough that it will tip the scales and sort of level the playing field with Azalea.
That's true as well, yeah, because obviously we've seen Riptide's got a legendary Riptide specialization. So do the other heroes have something as well similar to that? I guess that's a good observation as well.
Yeah, I do feel that if Azalea just gets one more specialization, that even if she gets nothing else, that alone would be enough to tip the scales.
Yeah. Nice. What about you, Chris? Anything you want to see from outsiders, whether it's Azalea or otherwise? Potentially probably not Oldhim. Probably not going to see Oldhim support in this set, but
I play a lot of heroes because I do a bit of teaming myself.
Nice.
Since I'm a store owner, right? So I also get to see lots of different cards. I'm like, hey, I want to get this card. I want to play this hero. So I currently have quite a few decks. I would have the Dreaded Fire deck as well, but I don't play it because I think I wouldn't say it's dumb, but it's just very straightforward deck, right? You just got the blue, you pitch it, and then you go off, right? So so I've been playing Armoury quite a bit, just like Cal over at Red Zone Rope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Assassins looks like it has a fun class. Armoury can't perform right now because the card pool is still quite small, but certainly the current fatigue build does work, right? You can actually finish games off. So it's like kind of like maybe a 30-70 or 50-50 where you could win a game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely want to assess it. Riptide is interesting because if our theories are correct and we can actually play traps out instantly or to use traps as a means to damage the opponent, then that's going to be an interesting mechanic to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not entirely just shooting your arrows. You're actually also using your traps to actually cause damage
Yeah.
and potentially win the game with traps. So I hope that happens. That sounds like it will be a fun hero. I never really like rangers because even though they're very flavorful, you have to like load your arsenal and shoot it out. It just feels exactly like a archer shooting a bow. But that whole I just find it a bit clunky where you have to like load the arsenal, shoot it out. I don't understand why you guys love rangers.
Yeah,
I don't quite like the mechanic. But if Riptide does this trap thing, that's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to give us a new way to play, isn't it? Essentially, we'll give other people new ways to play the ranger.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, because Guardians extends are quite boring. You just block and hit. I'm like, oh, that's boring sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless, yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm definitely going to be going down to a pre-release. So have you got a pre-release for yours as well? Your shop?
Yeah, we do pre-release on. Let's see, let me check the date. I can't remember now. Our pre-release is on. It's a Saturday, I think. So
Saturday before, isn't it? Yeah, I think maybe.
March. Yeah, pre-release starts 17, 18, 19, right? So ours is I think on the 18th. Yeah.
Nice.
18th of March. Yeah.
Awesome. Make sure you head down to Stormgate Games then. Make sure you go down there. But yeah, before we go, we're going to shout out some socials and that if you want. So Stormgate, I know you've got some platforms you might want to shout out, and obviously shout out the shop and where you can find you and all that good stuff.
So we can be found on Facebook. That's where primarily I post up things. I also have got an associated account on Instagram. I think more of the engagement comes on Facebook. I started doing Twitter a bit recently. But I don't usually post through the store. I do post some things through the store, Twitter.
Yeah.
But I try to post more on my own stuff because I don't want to make it officially from the store. Because I've thought on my own that I don't want to be like official Stormgate Games views, right? Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at Chris Liao. So that's my Twitter handle, my personal Twitter handle. But of course, I tweet on Stormgate Games as well. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And you know what else? Oh yeah, we have our web store on stormgategames.com. So we have singles as well. I think we one of the very few stores that actually try to buy and sell off players. So that's something that we do. But the player base still needs more growth. It's still quite small here in Malaysia. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. With regards to, we've had a massive organised play sort of news thing as well. I won't go too far into it, but where, if LSS were to say, right, obviously Malaysian crew, where do you want to go for a pro tour or a massive calling or something? Where would you want them to go, which is close to where you are? Do you think, which they haven't gone yet or have done only once before? Where would you want that to be held? What's easier for
Singapore is near, but Singapore is expensive because of the currency. So Indonesia sounds awesome. I think if you could do one in Indonesia, that'd be good.
A lot of artists over there as well.
Indonesia. Yeah.
A lot of Indonesian artists in Flesh and Blood as well at the moment. So
yeah, correct. And then you get all the Indonesian artists to be there, and then we can like get their signatures and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had to line up quite a lot for that, right? Like long lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, hopefully we see some more support for organised play in that side of the world. It's obviously got great people over there. So thanks again for joining us today. Obviously, you're watching this on Go Again Gaming, and of course, we've got Jim from Fab TCG Cards there as well. So, do you want to shill where people can get your stuff from as well, mate?
Yeah, always. Fab TCG Cards on Twitter, fabtcgcards.com for the single store. And then, I have a smallish YouTube channel that I'll be streaming some Outsiders openings as soon as I get the stock for that. So that'll be a little more active around that time.
Yeah.
Just a quick note too. I will be taking the website offline for a short time. For the next week or two. I got to update the back end a little bit. I'm going to upgrade like my Shopify profile or whatever. Redo the inventory, clean it out, just do some maintenance. So the site will lock up for a little bit, but I'm taking this downtime to do that so that it's fully up and ready to go for Outsiders.
Nice. Yeah. Going to get a lot of traffic on there at that point, mate. That's for sure. The Azalea Cult.
Releases are by far the highest traffic, for sure.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So thank you very much for everybody who's joined in now or in the future. If you watched to the very end, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all right. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on. It's been good to get your insights into our supreme leader. Praise be. Praise be.
Praise be.
And we'll try and get some membership cards out to you as well at some stage. I'm not sure if I've got your. I think I might have your shipping address somewhere, Chris. Maybe I've sent you something before, but maybe not.
Oh, yeah, I haven't actually. I'll drop a line to you. No worries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we give some talk of Azalea stuff out to fans here. There are actually quite a number of Azalea fans out there. Actually, I realized.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Malaysia. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. But apart from that, that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for everybody who's tuned in. And yeah, we'll see you very, very soon to do it all over again in the Azalea Cult and Goken Gaming. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Right.
Yep. Cheers.